Web Marketing That Works podcast, episode 123, with today's guest, Jay Baer.
Welcome to the Web Marketing That Works podcast. Come behind the scenes of real-life marketing experiments and listen in as amazing guests confess the truth about what really works. Now, here are your hosts, Adam Franklin and Toby Jenkins.
It's Adam Franklin here on the Web Marketing That Works podcast, and I'm here with Tobes. How are you, Tobe?
Good, Ads. Good to be here.
Hey, today's guest is Jay Baer, who we've both met and seen live at the Growth Summit. He's got a new book called Hug Your Haters.
Ah, right. Awesome.
Yeah, it's all about customer service and really the disruption of customer service and the things that we can actually be doing now to change the situation. Because he made this interesting point. He says 80% of companies say they do good customer service, but only 8% of their customers agree.
Yeah, right. There's a gap for you.
Huge gap. And that's basically why he wrote the book, because there's this massive disconnect and massive gap between what people reckon they're doing and what's actually being perceived in the marketplace.
Interesting. The book I really liked around customer service was that John DeJulius one.
Oh, what's it called again? The one Leslie really liked. Yes, I know the one you mean. Yeah, he was great.
I might have to go to the show notes, that one.
We'll pop that.
But it was a cracker.
Yeah, well, I'm sure you're going to like this interview because there's a whole lot of stuff that I actually asked him stuff from our negative comments response template as well, like what to do when there's a troll and what to do in these other situations. So we might even do a debrief on that in the post show. But before we get there, let me just give a quick intro to the show. Of course, this is the show for people who love marketing on the web. Tobes and I are going to take you behind the scenes of real-life marketing experiments. We'll take a look at the good, the bad, and the ugly, and we'll confess what's failed and reveal the truth about what really works. The show is brought to you by our book, Web Marketing That Works, and specifically the bonus marketing templates that go with it. So get your hands on those templates at bluewiremedia.com.au/book. And Tobes, it sounds like you're about to turn around the corner with the indicator on.
Yes, I am. I'm driving down to the airport to come down to Sydney to see you, mate. So we've got the event, the Web Marketing Bootcamp, 2-day bootcamp starting tomorrow. So really looking forward to that, and hence the indicator. So I'll switch that off.
No, better to be road safe than podcast safe. I'm sure we can listen to some indicator work. At least we know you're driving safely. And of course, the timing of this is Jay Baer's book launch week. His book is called Hug Your Haters, which is why we wanted to get this interview up today, and also why we needed to make the most of this time while you're driving to the airport on the Gold Coast. So hence, that's why we've got the indicator. And Tobes, let me just give Jay a quick introduction as well. Jay Baer is a New York Times bestselling author. His most recent book, this one that we're talking about today, is called Hug Your Haters, and his other books include the book Utility, Why Smart Marketing is About Help, Not Hype. That particular book and his philosophy of helping people has been really fundamental to our approach to marketing, and Jay's had a big impact right from the early days with the stuff that we've done as well. And of course, Jay was kind enough to write a blurb for our book, Tobes, and it ended up on the back cover, which was really nice of him. So it's very exciting to be interviewing him today, and I reckon with that, we head over to the show.
Sounds good.
My name is Adam Franklin, and on the Web Marketing That Works podcast, we have Jay Baer. How are you, Jay?
Adam, I am living the dream. Thank you so much for having me on the show. I very much appreciate your time and the time of all of your listeners.
Thank you. Look, let's talk customer service online. Let's talk negative comments, because when I speak to audiences and clients all around the world, they often say that they are scared of negative comments. How about let's talk about the fact that you can't really avoid negative comments, but how you should actually embrace them.
Well, here's the thing. We do freak out a lot about negative comments, but actually, when you look at it mathematically, and I did a lot of research for my new book, Hug Your Haters, when you look at it mathematically, they're not that common, right? So only 5%, according to research, this is not research that I did, it's from Fred Reichhold at Bain, but the research shows that only 5% of unhappy customers ever complain in a way that the business can find it. Now, they may say some things to their friends, but only 5% ever complain to you. So that might be phone, it might be email, it might be Facebook, it might be a review site, Yelp, or whatever the case may be. 5%. So you have to understand that the dangerous customers are not those who complain. Those who complain are doing you a favor. They're using their time to tell you what could be better. The dangerous customers are those who are unhappy and don't say anything about it. They just disappear and never come back again.
Right. So it's actually a very big blessing in disguise that you have a customer who's upset, but also kind enough to notify you of the problem.
Well, here's the thing, Adam. Let me put it this way. The most overrated thing in business, in fact, probably the most overrated thing in life, is praise. Because when somebody says to you, Adam, you're great at this, you're great at that, you're great at this, or Toby, you're great at that, I mean, it makes you feel terrific, but it doesn't teach you anything. Because in almost every case, we already know what we're good at. What teaches us lessons, which makes us better people and better business people, is negative feedback and criticism. Criticism is the laboratory for improvement. And without it, we'll never get any better. Not to mention the fact that there's a bunch of other research that shows that having some negativity, like let's look at a review site. We've got a bunch of reviews, right? You might think as a business owner, well, I want all 4 and 5 star reviews. Actually, you don't, because the research shows that having some negative reviews makes the 4 and 5 star reviews much more believable. So even psychologically, having some negativity mixed in with positivity is actually a really good thing.
That's interesting. Actually, Toby and I have a phrase for that positive feedback you get. We call it positive feedback to face, and then we don't know what they're saying behind our back. But
I like that a lot.
Yeah,
the PFF. That's good.
Yeah. And so we're always digging to try and ask people, well, how could we have improved, or what? Give us all your feedback, not just the nice first line of praise, but let's dig deeper and find out things that we can actually do to get better. And sure enough, there's always stuff there that they can tell us.
One of my favorite examples from the book is from the business Le Pain Quotidien, and they are a chain of bakeries and cafes. They're based in Brussels, Belgium. They've got a bunch of locations in the US as well, 220 locations overall. When their new director of customer experience, her name is Erin Pepper, when she started there about 2 years ago, she said, my goal is to triple the number of complaints that we get.
Wow.
Think about that, right? She wants to be a better business, but wants to get triple the number of complaints. Why? Because every complaint is a lesson. Every complaint gives you an early warning of something that you can do better at. So what she did is she went through and audited all the different places where they encounter the customer. So when the customer walks in, they look at the door. When they get to the counter, they look at the signage. And then they talk to somebody who takes their order, then somebody who brings them their food, and then somebody who cleans the table, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And so they audited all these different potential customer touch points. And so they built this system where now it nudges the customer at all these different places. And so the team there is trained to say to every customer, if anything is less than 100% perfect, please let us know. Go here, 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 or here to let us know. There's signage. There's signs on every table. There's signs on the wall. There's a note on the receipt that you get after you pay. Like all these different places that the customer sees while they're on premise, it's always nudging them to provide feedback.
Lots of calls to action, if you will.
Yeah, exactly. It's a call to action. It's a call for feedback, really.
Yeah. So Jay, let's talk about once you actually get a negative comment, and of course only 5% of people are prepared to comment publicly, but say you get one of those, what impact can you then have on the customer by either responding or ignoring or whatever else?
Well, Adam, that's the really exciting thing, and really the thrust of the research that I did for the book Hug Your Haters was I really looked at the science of complaint. Who complains, why they complain, where they complain, and what happens when their complaint is answered or not. And so what I found was really remarkable. I found that when you don't answer a complaint, and I should say that 1/3 of all customer complaints are never answered, and the overwhelming majority of those that are ignored are online, where everybody can see that they're being ignored, which is perhaps mysterious. So when somebody's complaint is not answered, it decreases their customer advocacy by up to 60%. It takes a bad situation and it makes it worse. You're essentially saying, we don't care about you enough to even respond, and the chances of that customer staying with you is pretty low. However, the good news is that when customer complaints are answered, it increases customer advocacy by up to 25%. And so it takes a bad situation and it makes it better. It gives you a chance to save that customer. And because most of these customer interactions are in public, it gives all the people looking on a chance to see what kind of business you are, what your values are, etc.
Wonderful. So is there ever a situation where you should ignore a negative comment, say from like a troll?
Well, we talk about that in the book a little bit. We call them the crazies in the book. And so I believe, and the research bears this out, that everybody should be answered. The customer is not always right, far from it, but the customer should always be heard. And even when you answer a troll, what you do is you show other people who are watching what your values are, that you are paying attention, that you're listening, that you will respond. And as long as you don't take the bait and respond with some trollish behavior of your own, I think it actually takes the fire away from trolls because they're like, well, this isn't any fun. They just answer very matter-of-factly. This isn't going to get a rise out of anybody. Now, if somebody is being violent, if somebody is way over the line with profanity, there are certainly circumstances where I wouldn't answer. But generally speaking, I find business people say, this is a negative customer and we're going to call them a troll. Well, to me, somebody who has a negative opinion that you don't agree with and a troll are not the same thing.
Yes, that's a very big difference there, isn't there? Now, let's talk about comments that maybe you should actually delete. Now, I know that's generally frowned upon because you don't want to be seen to be hiding negative comments, but surely there are times when people just go too far and you're well within your rights to pull it down. Is there a situation like that?
Well, I think certainly if somebody is making threats, you should take it down, physical altercation threats. If somebody is using the first and last name of another customer or an employee, I think that should be taken down because it puts their security at risk. I think if somebody is, and this happens sometimes accidentally, not even in a negative situation, but just accidentally, some people just don't think about it. If somebody puts personally identifiable information on a public forum, so for example, in a health situation, maybe some sort of health diagnosis or an account number or something like that really should be handled with a private message, I think it makes sense to delete that. But I would always, in any case, anytime anything is deleted, I always comment first and say, this is going to be deleted and here's why. Because again, you're not just talking to that person, you're talking to the spectators, you're talking to the crowd, you're talking to all the people who are going to see this, and they need to know why you deleted it and how you handle your business. So just to magically delete it and it's gone and no one knows what happens, you're going to create more questions than you answer that way.
Awesome. And is it worth just getting a screenshot of it as well?
Yes. Great point, Adam. Thank you for raising that. You should always grab a screen capture anything before you delete it, just in case something happens like that's not what the situation was, or the person whose comment you deleted freaks out, or, there's all kinds of weird stuff that can happen. But yes, great point. Thank you for bringing that up.
That's all right. Hey, what are some of the things that people do wrong when they're responding to comments? Like, of course, ignoring them is no good, but what are some of the mistakes you've found through your own experience and through the research?
Yeah. What's funny? It's a tricky proposition because I talk about in the book that you need to answer fast, and you do, right? People expect, especially in social media, they expect a quick reply. And so you've got to reply quickly, but you can't reply so quickly that you are reactionary. And in fact, one of my favorite parts of the book is we actually interviewed some psychiatrists and we said, what happens in your head when you're confronted with negativity? And it's quite remarkable. Your brain chemistry actually changes when you read negative feedback about yourself or your business. You completely go haywire. It's quite similar to the fight or flight response that you get when you're actually physically attacked or threatened. And so it's perhaps no surprise that some businesses, when they respond, do so in a way that is just as trollish or as intimidating or as threatening or as out of bounds as some of the customer language. And so you have to take a deep breath and kind of not take it personally. And it's really hard, especially for small businesses, because when somebody complains about your small business, you interpret that as somebody saying that your baby is ugly. It's really hard not to take it personally, but you can't take it personally. You've got to take a deep breath, give it a minute, kind of get over that initial, well, if you say that, I say this, bop, 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 and you cannot do that. It is counterproductive.
Okay, so it feels like a bit of a punch in the stomach or a punch in the face. Wear that, get your composure, but then reply as soon as is reasonably possible without being in that angry defensive mode.
Absolutely. The other thing I'll tell you that is one of my favorite parts of the book that people really respond to who have had a chance to read it is my rule of reply only twice, which says that you never, ever, 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 ever reply to a customer more than twice online in public, because it's either a waste of time or it's counterproductive. So if somebody says, "Oh, we hate you," you answer back, "We're terribly sorry. What have we done wrong?" And they come back, "It doesn't matter. We just hate you." You should answer a second time. "It seems like we really have had a misstep here. Love to talk to you about it in a more comprehensive or nuanced fashion. Could you email me here or call us over here?" They come back a third time and say, "I don't want to call you. I don't want to email. I just hate you." At that point, you just walk away. You do not answer a third time because you've given that person not just one, but two chances. You've given them an alternate contact mechanism. You've demonstrated that you actually do want to understand what's going on. And most importantly, Adam, you've shown all the other people who are looking on from the sidelines, right, what exactly you're made of. You're like, well, they kind of went out of their way to help this person and they clearly don't want help. So after that point, just move on to the next one. Answer only twice.
That is a super useful rule. So Jay, what were some other interesting findings from the book that maybe you weren't expecting or that really took you by surprise?
Probably the one that took me most by surprise, given the fact that I come from the marketing side of the world, is that if you look at where people complain in social media, when we think about which social channel is the primary customer service channel, most businesses would say Twitter. In fact, there's many, many, many companies that have specific Twitter accounts just for customer service. It's company name cares or company name helps, etc. More of an American phenomenon than other countries. It's still, Twitter has been for a long time known as the place where people go for help, and they do. But mathematically, what the research found was quite interesting. 71% of all complaints that are in social media are on Facebook. And when we drilled down into that, we found it's because a lot of people on Facebook complain about brands, but not to brands. If you're going to get your question answered specifically from a brand or a business, you might go to their Twitter account because you're treating it almost like email. If you're just sort of complaining to your friends and you want everybody to say, "Oh, that's terrible. I'm so sorry that happened to you. That sucks," Facebook is the place. And there's a lot more of that than I thought.
Okay, so they go to whinge on Facebook and go to Twitter if they actually want to sort of get an actual response from the company.
Yes, but what's fascinating, I think, is that the research found that when you can actually find those complaints on Facebook and also on review sites, whether it's Yelp or TripAdvisor or whatever review site matters in your business, and there's dozens and hundreds of review sites, when you answer those customer complaints in those places, that's where you can actually have the biggest impact on that customer's advocacy and the biggest impact on that customer's loyalty, because they don't expect you to answer there, right? You're answering them in a context where usually they don't get an answer, and it can really blow their mind and win their heart.
And how do people go about finding those comments on Facebook? Are there tools that you can use?
There are. So what you'd want to use is some sort of social listening software. Of course, if somebody posts something to Facebook only for their friends and they tag it only friends, you're not going to be able to find it. But anything that's tagged publicly, good social media listening software will be able to pull up. Not to mention the fact, if you're a small business, you don't even have to go to that route. You can just go to Facebook and type in your business name in the search bar and you'll find all the mentions of the business. But certainly it would be easier to use some sort of social media listening software, which will pick up Twitter as well, Facebook, potentially some other places. And of course, there are dozens of social media listening packages out there in every price point, from free to many thousands of dollars a month.
Okay, thanks for those tips there, Jay. Now let's finally talk. I mean, we've talked about the book, but let's talk about where people can get it and everything else about the book.
Thanks very much. Just been out for a little while now. Hug Your Haters, How to Embrace Complaints and Keep Your Customers. As I mentioned, it's based on a lot of research that I conducted with a company called Edison Research, full of facts and charts. And one of my favorite stats in the book, which is not from me, but one that I cite, is that 80% of businesses say that they deliver superior customer service, but only 8% of their customers agree. So we have a pretty big problem there when everybody thinks they're good at it, except for the customers who think they're terrible at it. And that's why I wrote the book. I mean, customer service is being disrupted in the exact same ways that marketing has been disrupted. And there's lots of books about marketing disruption. There's very few books about customer service disruption. So I wrote one, and I wrote it based on a ton of research. And so there's examples in the book from all kinds of companies. So US companies, global companies. There's examples from the UK, there's examples from Australia, there's examples from continental Europe, there's examples from Canada, there's examples from big companies, small companies, B2B companies, B2C companies. So there's something in there for everybody. Every single book includes a poster called The Hatrix, which is the analysis of who complains and what happens when people complain on Facebook versus a review site, etc. So the reviews have been really strong, and I hope people get it a shot. You can get it all the ways and places that books can be gotten, certainly in bookstores, Amazon, etc. I think the Audible version, which I read, is, I think for now, only available in the States and Canada, but it'll roll out in the rest of the world here pretty soon.
Awesome. Hey, Jay, just one other question. If there's this big disconnect between 80% of companies saying they do good customer service and only 8% of customers agreeing, who's actually in charge? Like, is it up to each individual in the company? Is it up to the CEO? Is it up to customer service? Like, what's the best approach there?
Well, both and all, actually. But I tell you, ultimately, and I mentioned this in the book a little bit in one of the chapters, ultimately, it's cultural. So, I mean, you can be good at customer service regardless of your company. Any company can be good at it. But the only companies that can be great at it are the companies that believe in it. And that's a cultural issue. It's not a resources issue. It's not a departmental issue. It's not an organizational principle. You believe that being great to your customers is one of your competitive advantages. And the companies that believe that are not coincidentally, great at customer service. And so it is ultimately a cultural issue, which is very much a CEO type of a scenario.
Okay, awesome. Thank you so much for joining us today, Jay. Congrats on the success of Hug Your Haters, and have yourself a wonderful evening.
Oh, thanks so much. Go to hugyourhaters.com for more info, all kinds of special offers and stuff. I'll send you some cool free stuff. Go to the hugyourhaters.com site.
Wonderful. Cheers, Jay.
Thanks so much.
And that's a wrap for my chat with Jay Baer. Some really cool stuff there, TJ.
Yeah, look, I think you alluded to it right at the start, but particularly around the negative comments handling and hugging your haters. I'm really interested to hear sort of how your debrief in terms of how we might incorporate some of that into that negative comments handling process.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, there's a couple of really cool things that I appreciated. The first is that I was blown away by is that 1/3 of negative comments aren't answered. Okay, so that's pretty huge. Like if you know that there's a comment, like if we knew there was a negative comment about Bluewire and we didn't respond, we'd think that's a bit crazy. But actually 1/3 aren't. And what the impact this actually has is it decreases the customer's advocacy by 60%. So it's taking a bad situation and making it worse. So you're very unlikely to recover from that. Like if you've got an upset customer and you're making them 60% more upset by giving them the silent treatment, not much good, hey?
No.
By the same token, though, if you do actually respond, then you're turning them into advocates, or oftentimes you're turning them into advocates because, well, oftentimes let me backtrack. Sometimes they're not expecting a response because one of the interesting things Jay said is that people go to Facebook to basically whinge about an experience where they don't expect a response, and they go to Twitter where they do hope to get a response. Because Twitter's kind of like the official channel for customer complaints, and often companies will reply, or good companies will reply through that. Yeah, but people just go to their Facebook page and go, "Oh, I had this bad experience, blah de blah," and they just want sympathy and whatever from their friends.
Yeah,
and that's what he said was by far more common because most people will go to their Facebook page not anticipating a response or anything, and they just go there to get it off their chest. So it's in that situation that there's a huge opportunity for companies who are actually listening to go and address the situation in that forum. So it's then where they're not expecting it, they've had a bad experience, they're ranting and raving to their friends, but then if the company actually comes in and then responds, that's a huge opportunity to take a negative comment customer and turn them into somebody who actually appreciates the feedback and it becomes an advocate for the company. So big opportunities there.
Yeah.
Another really neat thing that I thought you might like, which we haven't officially sort of, defined or anything, but he has this policy that he's really big on in the book and in his own practice. He's got his business called Convince and Convert. And that is that you only reply twice at a maximum to negative comments. So
I was wondering where he would draw the line between a negative comment and a genuine, someone who's just hating on or doesn't want the resolution,
Yeah, this is exactly why this to reply thing is so cool, because the first time his opinion is, you should reply to virtually everybody unless they're full on really troll-like and making really nasty comments that are inappropriate. But yeah, respond to virtually everybody, or respond to everybody, and then show them the path that that you care and you want to resolve it. And then if they're still hating, then make that your last comment and say, look, you can reach me here, you can call me, you can email me. Would love to resolve it offline. And if they're still coming back, you just leave it at that, because you've demonstrated twice that you care and that you're listening and all that other stuff, but you're not going to get drawn into their long sort of argument about everything. So yeah, reply twice as a max was a really neat tip.
Yeah, good rule of thumb.
Yeah. I told him about our positive feedback to face as well.
What did he say to that?
Yeah, he thought that was pretty cool.
Yeah.
PFF or PFGF. Yeah. So TJ, they are the main highlights for me from our interview with Jay. So just to wrap up, the show is brought to you by our book called Web Marketing That Works, and you, the listener, can grab the 33 marketing templates for free. Head over to bluewiremedia.com.au/book. And of course, we want to deliver actionable advice. I reckon Jay's over-delivered on this show, but we would always welcome your feedback. And you can reach us at, I'm at adam.franklin@bluewiremedia.com.au. TJ?
Yeah, I'm toby.jenkins@bluewiremedia.com.au.
And if you enjoyed this show, and I hope you did, I'd love it, or we both love it, if you could leave us a review on iTunes or Stitcher. We'll give shout-outs to people that leave 5-star reviews. And don't forget to go to hugyourhaters.com to get all of your wonderful free downloads and get information about the book. Of course, you can get it anywhere, but Amazon is a good place to go. So with that, thank you, and we'll see you on the next show.
Thanks so much.